It's all attempt to steal Nigerian people's money.
So what are you going to do?
What I'm going to do is very simple. One, I'm going to capture the actual revenue of Nigeria. And it's going to be a very tough battle because there are a lot of people in Nigeria who have not had a decent job in their entire lifetime. They've just been sitting down and they have a corner where a portion of the money of the country goes to them just for existing.
Now let's begin today's conversation taking our quote from Michelle Obama, an American attorney and author who served as the First Lady of the United States from 2009 to 2017. She once said, "Here's the problem. While some folks are frustrated and tuned out and staying home on election day, trust me, other folks are showing up. Democracy continues with or without you." Absolutely spot on. Now let's take our second quote and see what exactly it is saying. And this one is from John F. Kennedy, an American politician who served as the 35th president of the United States from 1961 until his assassination near the end of his third year in office. He once said, "The ignorance of one voter in a democracy impairs the security of all." I quite agree with this one. Now let's see how all of these quotes relate to what we will be discussing tonight. Warm greetings and welcome to The Conversation. We're reaching you from KAFTAN's Television Studio here in the nation's capital, Abuja. I am Annabelle Oji. Now, like the past years, 2023 has begun the journey and will undoubtedly come to pass. But in the lives of Nigeria and, of course, Nigerians, all things being equal, the year will witness another round of general elections into all vacant elective offices. At that time, the incumbent president, Muhammadu Buhari, would have completed his 8 years mandatory period of 2 terms in Aso Villa, the seat of the federal government of Nigeria, at Abuja, piloting the affairs of the country as enshrined in the constitution. Now, leading to the 2023 presidential elections, prominent figures who have not hidden their interest in the plum job include Vice President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Professor Yemi Osinbajo. You also have from the opposition party, PDP, there you have the former Vice President, Atiku Abubakar. And you also have from the Social Democratic Party, there you have Nigerian lawyer and founder of KAFTAN TV, Prince Adewole Adebayo, and a host of other aspirants. So, on the show today, we will be speaking with Prince Adewole Adebayo, a Nigerian lawyer, founder, Adewole Adebayo Co House of Law. He's also the founder of KAFTAN TV Ondo, Lagos and Abuja Studio. He's currently running for president of Nigeria as a member of the Social Democratic Party, SDP, a third force coalition. We'll get to meet him after this timeout. Please join us again.
Government is broke, government is broke. But people are spending billions to go inside the government that is broke. Have you ever seen a minister who resigned because government is broke before? Government has no money. Have you ever seen a governor who said, ladies and gentlemen, when I was elected, I thought the government had money. Now I discover government has no money, I resign. Have you ever seen it? Government has no money, but they are bringing money out at election time. Where is that money coming from? So they are lying. What is happening is that there are two types of wicked people in government. Type 1, they eat current money. Any money they find in government, they will eat it. They are wicked about that one. There is type 2. Type 2, they eat current money and future money. They will say, my term will end next year. When I leave, how will I eat money? Let me borrow money now and borrow money of the future and eat it now.
Welcome back. If you've just joined us, this is The Conversation. We are reaching you from KAFTAN's Television Studio here in the nation's capital, Abuja. If you just joined us, you are right on time for the interview. Our guest on the show today is Prince Adewole Adebayo. He is a presidential hopeful. You're welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for the invitation.
Great to have you. All right, now let's start by scratching the surface. You declared your intentions to vie for the biggest position in Nigeria's political space as the next CEO. Now tell us, what exactly stirred that thought or move?
Well, you know, you are in Nigeria, you know the situation of the country. The country is one in which we are unanimous about the fact that the country is not working. And we are unanimous about the fact that the country should be working, given the resources and opportunities and the number of years that the country has been in existence and the nature and quality of the people of the country. The country should be working, but it's not working. And we're also unanimous knowing that leadership is our problem. And the leader of the government is the president of the country. And it goes to show that if the country is in such a bad state over so many years, it means that we'll be having quite bad presidents. And the incumbent situation is that we've had what Nigerians agree unanimously to be about the worst experience so far since we returned to civil rule in 1999. So for me, I think that anyone who has leadership skill, who wants to help the country, who understands the issue, should consider going to the number one job where you can make the impact. You can solve the problems instead of just giving an impression as if the problems facing the country are insurmountable. They are very simple problems, but our leaders are even more simplistic about the whole thing.
All right, then we usually take our social media posts later, but I'd like to take that first. From social media, someone asked, why start with the presidency? Why not the National Assembly or become a governor? And then so we'll bring that question personally to you. Why the president?
They're not the same thing. So it's like if a vehicle is having accidents frequently and you want to stop the vehicle from having an accident, you take over the wheel and become the driver. And somebody asks you, why don't you be a passenger in the vehicle first and crash? Or why don't you be a conductor? Or why are you not a clerk or a mechanic? That's not where the problem lies. The problem lies in the presidency, because under our system that we're practicing now, we have 109 senators, you have 360 representatives, you can only have one executive. The judiciary has over 4,000 judges, but the presidency or the executive branch has only one person, and that's the president. So there is no divisibility. You cannot defy the powers of the executive. If you want to serve in the executive branch, the only elective office in the executive branch is the president. There is no other office. If you had a good president, then you could choose good people to become ministers. But if you have a poorly equipped president, an incompetent one, then it doesn't matter how talented a person is. If you are a minister under an incompetent president, then you will be an incompetent minister to boot. So there's no way out of it. And for those who have interest in governorships, those people are trying to solve one out of 36 problems of the country. So if you are governor of Ondo State, how do you solve the problems of the people of Sokoto? How do you help Bayelsa people? How do you help Rivers? How do you help Borno people? How would the governor of one state go and, if you became governor of Lagos State, how will you go and eradicate Boko Haram in Zamfara? So for those of us who are at the federal level, and we want to work in the federal executive, the only elective office in the federal executive is the president of Nigeria.
Okay, great. Now taking a cue from where you just landed, personally, what are your dreams or your plan, your vision for Nigeria? That's one on the side. And then the second is, generally, what are your plans for Nigeria if and when you become president? Because we keep hearing you talk about hope again.
You see, let us understand what Nigeria's problems are. There are 1,001 of these problems. But if you summarize them, they will come to about 5.
Okay.
They will come to insecurity, which came to join what was there before, which is mass poverty. Then you would have problems of employment. You have problem of general collapse of infrastructure. So that if you are in Nigeria, if you want to interact with the modern world, you start having a challenge. You don't have access to electricity, no access to clean water, or water of some sort at all. Then you have no safety on the roads, no good roads. Before the bandits came to join the problem, you had problems of pothole and all of that. And then you don't have enough airports. The few airports you have don't work too well. Barely no rail lines. The few rail lines we have now, they are less than 1% of the population of the country or the land space of the country. So without good infrastructure, without good internet, without, you can't do anything in the modern world. So we have all of these problems. Now, what is the cause? It's only one cause. You can list 1 million problems, but there's only one cause: poor governance. And when you have good governance, these things are not even supposed to be achievements. So what you have is that what I'm bringing along is that I will run a competent government for the first time in a long time.
Okay.
And when you run a competent government, the mere display of basic competency will make these problems to go away. Because these are problems that are very simple to solve. But there is nothing in the world, however simple they might be, that you can solve without doing what you need to do.
Okay.
So I believe in your studio, it doesn't take much effort to switch on the light for us to be able to record this program. But the light will never switch itself on. And if it's just a single battery that's missing in your camera, if you don't replace that single battery, which will take you like 2 minutes to install, if you don't put it, the camera will not work for 200 years. So this is the nature of the problems of Nigeria. We morphed from poor governance, which we've had over the years, to non-governance at all.
Okay.
Such that you can have crime, not because Nigerians are naturally criminal, but because the law enforcement have stopped to function. And they only function where they want to carry out their own criminality. You have problems of poverty, not because the country is not making money, but because the money being made in the country, one, is either allowed to waste away by not being captured, or when the money is captured, is immediately stolen by those who are in government.
Okay.
And the whole principle of people being in government is just to come and access public money and waste it. So these things, if they disappear, then you will know immediately that these other problems will go away. So you don't have to be a super genius. You don't have to come from the moon or Mars to come and solve the problem. What you need to do is to know what is the responsibility of government in every aspect of our life, and how do I set up a government made up of the best possible Nigerians whose main duty is to go in there and do the work. And if they bring competence, which is they have to be familiar with the problems, they have to understand the problems, and you could see that those who are in government now don't even understand the problem they're supposed to solve.
Okay.
And they have no imagination, and on top of that, there's no character.
Okay, pardon me if I have to come in here. We'll definitely take all of these challenges one after the other.
Yes.
Now, how would you describe the kind of support or reactions or attention that you have been getting and still getting since you declared your intentions? Has it all been cheery and positive, or are there the negative or reactions or backlash that might make you decide to rescind on that decision?
No, not really. I think Nigerians, for their own sake and for the sake of their children, for those who have children, or care about children, they think that they all agree with what I'm saying. They agree with what I'm saying, that we need to have a very competent government, The support has been quite impressive.
Okay.
But it's long ways from February 25, 2023. So we still have a long way to go. We are still even at primary stages in every political party. We are still doing internal competition to choose the best to be our candidate. But so far, I've not received any negative response. I've received varying degree of emotions from people who are highly enthusiastic and think I'm not even serious enough. I should push in more, push more. To those who feel like, are you really? Why are you doing this? You have a nice life, and why don't you just thank God for your life and mind your business? Why are you even risking your life? Are you sure people are ready? For those who have some skepticism and have sympathy for me, I think, why are you even going to the murky water of politics? To those who like the idea, but they are kind of despondent that the system is not fair, and if they put in so much effort, at the end of the day, the thing will be rigged or some unfairness will be in it. Apart from that, majority wants us to push.
Oh, great. Now, just like we mentioned before, now you are actually running for the office of the president come 2023 at such a time when we have electricity challenges. You have the economy is bleeding red. You have this precipitous depreciation of our national currency compared with other global currencies. The unemployment rate is far more than 33%. Even the youth unemployment is there. And then you have quite a lot of hydra-headed challenges. Now, we will take all of that one after the other. But before we take them up, how prepared are you for this journey?
I am prepared for the journey. I'm not intimidated by the problems.
Okay.
It's like you bring a patient to the hospital, and the patient will be presenting with temperature, will be vomiting, will be shaking, but a good doctor knows the cause. Knows that in about 30 minutes, this same person will be eating a nice meal soon, because he knows that this person is suffering from serious fever. So all I need to do is to deal with the fever. Once I deal with the fever, the temperature will come down, the person will start shaking. Once the temperature comes down, all that rigor will come down.
Okay.
And then once the rigor is down, the person can take in fluid or some intravenous nutrition, and the person will be well nourished or better nourished. The person will be well hydrated, and the person can now begin the proper treatment. So if you don't know where these problems, why they are there, then you can be intimidated by them. I know that, for example, Nigeria has no business with unemployment, but unemployment will come because the resources of the country are being stolen by the few who are there. So as a result, they're not creating new works, they're not creating new projects, which will absorb labor. So you won't be surprised in an environment where most of your wealth is stolen. I know, for example, that the foreign exchange is not reflective of the market, it's reflective of the criminality of those who are in charge, from the central bank to the commercial banks, to the government people. They just use the foreign exchange for money laundering and for other activities. So as a result of that, the foreign exchange is not being channeled towards the productive sector. So what do you expect? Then there will be an artificial tilt against the naira. It's obvious. So now, if you are talking in terms of security, there will be insecurity if those who are in charge of security are profiting from the insecurity, and that's where they make their money. So they'll keep the insecurity alive. So a bandit that could be eliminated in 2 weeks will be kept there for 2 years. You use their name to collect big money and collect. So it's not that the problems are difficult to solve.
Okay.
It's like you get to a house that has not been maintained for some time, but you have brooms, you have brushes, you have soaps, you have everything. You know that a good person, a good housekeeper, will turn this house around in 2 weeks, and will be looking sparkling. But until that good housekeeper gets there, the house will be filthy, and anyone coming close will be appalled, and they will say, this house is hopeless. So there isn't anything that will intimidate me in Nigeria's problem, because I know the cause. I know those who are causing the problem. Really? I know how they are causing it, and I know how they've managed to perpetuate themselves in government and around power for so long. And if we can help the Nigerian people to remove the grip that they have on people's throat a little bit, to allow Nigerians to breathe. You see that Nigerians will forget the past.
So is that what you're bringing on?
Yeah, just what you have to do. If there is no way you can wish someone well if there is a malicious gang squeezing them in the throat. You cannot wish for employment. You have to create jobs. And to create jobs, you have to use government resources.
Okay.
And to use government resources, you have to free the resources from those who have confiscated them. It's nothing you can do. You will hear it all the time. People will tell you, people in power will tell you that it's not the job of the government to create jobs. I'm sure you have heard that before.
Exactly, yes.
But ask the person who is saying that person himself will have been in government for 30 years. The government can create a job for him for 30 years. He can be senator for 8 years, governor for 8 years, minister for 8 years, and still be able to tell you that it's not the job of government to create jobs. You have President Buhari, who has been in government all his life. He's never planted a grain of corn at his own risk. As a young boy, he was put in government school. He graduated in government primary, government secondary, went to government military school, joined the government army, lived in government quarters up to now. He's living in government house, in the state house. So why would such a person say it is not the job of government to create jobs? If government did not create jobs, there will be no Buhari. So it is the part of the injustice that I talk about.
Okay.
And if you look at their children are employing government agencies. Go to Central Bank, go to NNPC, go to all the other places in government, NCC. It is their children that are there. But they will still tell you that it's not the job of government to create jobs. So what they are saying is that government job is for them alone. And you should go and find your own, wherever you can find.
Okay.
That I'm going to put a stop to.
We're definitely going to find out how you intend to put a stop to that later on the show. But then let's talk about your leadership style. What kind of leadership style are you bringing to the table? What stands you out from all those who have thrown their hearts into the ring?
For me, I don't know much about those other guys. But what I know is that I've always been hands-on. I like to do things that I have competencies in. So if you look at my entire life as a lawyer, I have to know my case. I have to do it by myself. I have to lead other lawyers. But in whatever they are doing, I am aware. And it's something I've done before or something I can do at any time. As a person who has investment in other areas, media, agriculture, pharmaceutical, in each of these areas, I am involved in it. So even in a pharmaceutical setting, I know the formulation, I know the pharmaceutics of the products being produced. It's not like I'm sitting down somewhere and a pharmacologist or pharmaceutic is telling me this is going to work for sickle cell. I know what will work. I know what will not work.
Okay.
I can study it. I can study. So my leadership skill is in being hands-on and giving close supervision to people. I delegate, but with serious supervision, and I understand I have a vision of what I want to do. So any other person who is working with me is working around that vision.
Okay.
So I don't just go to a place without having imagined how beautiful that place will be when I'm allowed to do my thing. So that's how I do it.
Okay.
I'm a developer. I go to empty land, marshland, rocky land that people don't want. But by the time I bring out my vision, in 2-3 years, people come there and say, oh, wow, what a paradise. So I have that ability to imagine a paradise out of hell and turn that hell to paradise. I know what it takes to do it and get it done. And so anyone working with me is working on target. So it's not like a typical person who sees government as a place of patronage. And if they come there, they just come to retire and enjoy. And in the process, bring their friends, children, and associates, and use the position of government to thank them for being with them or supporting them. And the people are given responsibility. There's no target. There's no supervision. There's no picture in their mind that has been given to them and said, see how this place is. This is how it should be in 6 months. This is how it should be in 1 year. So if you do that in the country, the country itself is beautiful. You know, Nigeria is a country that wants to develop. A country that Nigeria is a natural paradise. It's a country that wants you to succeed. Nigeria doesn't want you to be hungry. Even if you are walking in the forest, a fruit will fall from a tree on your head. If you are in the river, you see fishes going around. Everything around you wants you to succeed.
So who exactly is hampering the efforts of?
Nigeria is caused with the most terrible leaders that you can be wondering whether borderline they are part of the human race. Because all the positive human emotions like compassion, like mercy, like fairness, like justice, like shame, like having an active conscience. So you will see a thief who has stolen your money, telling you lies on TV. You say, I'm richer than the state or whatever, and people come out of prison with his prison uniform still attached to their body, decline for president. All sorts of. So if you see the collection, you will know that what is happening in Nigeria is the opposite of what happens in other places. Take a country like Israel. The environment hates you. It's a desert. If you stand outside in the afternoon, you almost fry in the heat. If you come out at night, you will freeze to death. You cannot just sleep outside. If you walk 10 miles away from your home, you'll be dehydrated. There's no water. The environment is harsh. If you throw any fruit on the ground, it's not going to grow. In Nigeria, if you throw fruits on the ground, it will grow. Okay. If you drink water and you pee, the pee will grow seed everywhere. So the country wants it to succeed, but no leaders. In other places, the environment, they don't want them to succeed, but they have good leadership that conquer the environment for them. In Nigeria, imagine what it will be if you have good leaders who just need to cooperate with the environment, not make it permanent. Because in Nigeria, poverty is a creation of the government. And this is a fact. Anybody can debate it with me. If you remove government from Nigeria and leave the Nigerians, the country, poverty will go away.
Oh, really?
Yes, okay. Because in our history, if you study our history, study what the Portuguese found when they came, study what the missionaries found when they came, other explorers, they never met poverty. They went around every part of Nigeria. There was no community that was poor. So it's not as if we're not like other countries that have a history of poverty for a long time.
Okay.
And then the government came to try to work on it. In our case, we've never had a history of government or of poverty. But when governments came and started exploiting the resources of the country and start stealing the resources of the country and start deceiving people to come to the cities, and they couldn't do agriculture anymore, they couldn't do the normal trading that they were doing before, and the craft were disappearing, and then they were not replacing them with working people. They were replacing farmers, artisans, and also technocrats, and technicians, and technologists with paper graduates whom they don't intend to employ. So they create cities that they don't intend to service. So this is where you have the poverty growing. So in the past in Nigeria, poverty or lack or want was associated with laziness.
Okay.
You have to be either lazy, or if a person was born with social debilitating handicap, then people will assist them. But or if a person was particularly lazy and not serious, poverty goes with laziness.
Okay.
But in Nigeria today, even the most hardworking person, even the person who works in the State House where the president is, if he relies on his salary will not take him to work. And the government knows that. So the government created poverty so that people will be disenfranchised. And they keep it that way. And this is, anybody can have a debate with me on that, and I will give you the numbers over the past 200 years, how poverty has been increasing. Remember that it's something that should shock anybody, that when President Buhari took over in 2015, people were not as poor as they are now. And when President Jonathan took over in 2010, people were not as poor as when he left. So every government that comes leaves the people poorer.
An inch of poverty.
Yes. So
all right. So we do for a break, but before we go on that break, now, just recently, the National Assembly acceded to President Muhammadu Buhari's request for adjustment to the fiscal framework, and they approved a revised budget of over 17 trillion naira for the fiscal year, with a provision of 4 trillion naira for petrol subsidy. Now, some economic think tank have already said that they've argued that that will actually sink the economy further. Now, I'm going to ask you, what are your assertions to this, and what are you going to do differently when you become the next CEO? Very quickly, before we go to break.
Number one, I don't know what those economic thinkers are addressing, but let me tell you what I'm addressing. The whole budget is fake. So if you answer within the framework of that 17 trillion budget, you have entered their trap. Let me tell you what happens in the Nigerian government. They take the money of Nigerian people, share it first, and loot everything, and then bring an empty paper called budget. Before I talk about the 17 trillion adjustment, go back to the 6 previous budgets under this government. What has been the performance of those budgets? Have they performed? Have they kept to it? So the budget is meaningless. It's like, let me give an illustration that the ordinary person in Nigeria is going to understand. Because it's the money of the ordinary people, so they need to understand how their money is being stolen in broad daylight. It's like a father who works in an office and earns 100,000, but tells his family members that he earns 25,000. So, and they come, he sits down, the wife sits down, the children sit down, and they are doing a budget over 25,000 naira. Have they not already lost 3/4 of their wealth? Because he's lied to them that he's only making 25,000. Now, he now tells you, I'm only making 25,000, so they do a budget on 25,000. Meanwhile, he's kept 75,000 somewhere. And then the 25,000, at the end of the month, he says to them, okay, I earned 25,000 as we agreed, but we're not paid this month, whereas he's been paid.
Okay.
So he says, but I wasn't paid, so I borrowed 15,000 from my neighbor. So even though we have a budget of 25,000, can we manage this 15,000 and spread it over the budget? So they start going back to their family assembly, adjusting. So the whole thing they are doing there is just a waste of time. Because if only somebody could tell them, this man is lying to you, his salary is not 25,000, his salary is 100,000, he's just keeping this money somewhere, he's doing gambling there and all sorts of nonsense with the money. And in any case, he didn't borrow 17,000 from any neighbor. Actually, he's just lying to you. And his salary has been paid regularly. So this is what's happening in Nigeria.
Okay.
The government is not telling you that as I'm speaking to you today, 80% of Nigeria's crude oil is being stolen. Not by spirits, not by aliens, but it's being stolen. As I speak to you now, as I enter your studio, thousands of barrels were being stolen. As I'm talking to you now, thousands of barrels are being stolen.
But they've actually said that before. They've confirmed it, that 80% of Nigeria's
okay, so if it's being stolen, how is that not supposed to be part of your wealth? What happened? Nigeria, let me tell you, Nigeria's gas potential and gas reserve makes Nigeria, our country, makes Nigeria to be 30 times as large as the US economy. Just our gas. Gas alone. Not talk of the crude oil that we're already used to.
Okay.
Then I don't want to talk about our agriculture. I don't want to talk about other taxation that we collect and they share the money. So I am not a person that can be easily fooled into the scenario I painted to you now, where the the family head has stolen all the wealth and kept it somewhere and is giving me a useless project that he will never implement, will never work with. And if you look at the so-called fuel subsidy, President Muhammadu Buhari himself said that, and he wasn't just a person who was campaigning, he was even a president at the time, that only a criminal will tell you that there's anything called fuel subsidy. So is he now, what is he calling himself now? That he's budgeting for what he calls a criminal subhead. So I know that it's all attempt to steal Nigerian people's money.
So what are you going to do?
What I'm going to do is very simple. One, I'm going to capture the actual revenue of Nigeria. And it's going to be a very tough battle because there are a lot of people in Nigeria who have not had a decent job in their entire lifetime. They've just been sitting down and they have a corner where a portion of the money of the country goes to them just for existing. So we have to stop all of that.
Okay.
So we need to capture our revenue. Secondly, I need to budget for development and for growth. And Nigeria, at current rate of the Naira, cannot survive and run a government and employ people and do infrastructure for if we are budgeting less than 70 trillion. So,
all right.
Yeah, so the 17 trillion, because if the 17 trillion is like a leftover, and like I have said it many times, and I said it, I think Nigerians have heard from me, that anybody who tells you that government is broke is your enemy.
Okay.
Is lying to you. Because from the government that is broke, dozens of people are within a few days able to bring in 100 million to buy form to campaign for offices. Okay,
we'll definitely come back to that.
So I'm just telling you, these people have no income, zero income, zero productivity outside government. And they're not bringing all the money that they have. It's just to buy one form, which some of them just buy, even reject after. That's an indication to you there's a lot of money inside government. So I'm going to government to make all that money available to you.
But one would actually ask that even in your party, you also bought nomination forms.
Yes. Our party is not saying there's no money in government. That's the difference.
Okay.
Their party is saying we are inside government. The reason why we can't help you is that there's no money in government.
All right.
But they are not going to leave the government. And they are going to start, what people consider a successful lawyer. I have my income, I pay my taxes, and if I want to be president of Nigeria, I will contribute money to that effort. Other people who are supporting me will contribute money to that effort. Okay. So I can tell you where I got my money to buy my form from my account. I display it. I'm not lying.
Okay.
I'm not saying
We're actually going to ask you.
I'm not saying that some spirits bought for me, some street urchins bought for me, some market women. I'm not.
All right, Prince Adewole.
I bought it with my money, but I am not one of those telling you that the government is broke. No.
Okay.
I'm the one telling you that the government is being looted. And even as much as they have looted the country, we still have enough if we apply competence to make sure that every Nigerian can live the way God proposed Nigerians to live.
All right.
Yes, that's my point.
Let's go on a quick break, and when we return, we'll continue with this conversation. Don't move a muscle.
But I can guarantee that they have all they need. That's the role of government in education. But right now, the government is running the education by itself. So, all the monies for education, not only does the government appropriate it, the government spends it. And it spends it in a political way. So, all you need to do is do what the colonial people did and what we communities did. You set up a school, you keep the school to standard, you train the teachers to standard, you give them their resources, and you stop interfering. And that's what my government will do.
Welcome back. If you've just joined us, this is The Conversation. We are reaching you from KAFTAN's Television Studio here in the nation's capital, Abuja. Now, we're still chatting with Prince Adewole Adebayo. He is a presidential hopeful. Now, before we went on that break, we've said quite a lot of things. Now, still on the economy, according to the Debt Management Office, Nigeria's total debt stock is set to peak rather at 45 trillion naira. How do you intend to offset or manage or even restructure Nigeria's debt? Because seriously, it is worrisome. Now, second, I'm going to ask you two questions and I'd like you to take them in one breath. Now, secondly, with this continuous depreciation of our national currency compared to other global currencies, we've heard some people come out to say that they will make $1 equal to 1 naira. So how do you intend to resuscitate the naira? Because we already know that all of those are just campaign promises. What is it for you?
Okay, let's start with the debt. The debt is bad relative to the GDP, relative to the fiscal situation of the government, but relative to what Nigeria can be, is really a very small amount. The problem with the debt is the fact that it shouldn't even have occurred at all. Because from what I know about government finance and the resources available to the country, I think I can clear Nigeria mature debt in 6 months. If the objective is to capture, if the objective of the government of the day is to pay off those debts, because it's not every debt that you want to pay off. Some debts are so cheap that why are you bothering to pay them off? If they are like 0.5% and you have a moratorium of 30 years or whatever. So you think, okay, and if the project on which you spend that money is generating income far not of, far above the cost of finance, why are you going to do it? It's like if you had a business and you borrowed 10 million naira, and every year you are required to pay 50,000 naira on top of it. And you invest the money on the project, and the project fetches you 500,000 a month. And you only need 50,000 to service the debt. Why do you want to pay it back? Because you're actually making profit and progress with the debt. So it's not, all debts are not equal. Some debts are acquired for productive things. Some debts have such benign terms that they shouldn't worry you. Some debts are very terrible because the terms are bad, because the cost is high. Two, is used for consumption, we pay salaries and things like that. So any of such debts that is mature, and we think in 6 months I will clean up the books. And how I'm going to do that is to profile the debts. I know most of Nigeria's debt profile. So when I become Nigeria's president, I am not going to be surprised when the director of debt management is briefing me, or the minister of finance is briefing me. I am not going to be surprised because I know already. So, and I know where the revenues are being hidden. For example, if I manage, which is quite easy if I want to do it, if I manage to stop stealing of petroleum products, for example, a lot of money will enter into the revenue. So you will know that it's there. So money is being stolen. And it's being stolen at the instance and with the support of those who are in government. Because the criminality has reached a stage where people discover that if we are stealing money, after the money has entered into the till, then there's EFCC, however unserious they are, there's still ICPC. Maybe one day, somebody who is serious is going to come and examine the books.
Okay.
So they start stealing off balance sheet. So they think, okay, it's just like you have an organization, a church, a mosque, or whatever, and you collect contribution, whether by way of tithes or by way of zakat or whatever, and you record it in a book. Once it enters into the book, to take it out, you have to amend the book again. But some people thought, okay, if I collect 10 million into the book, then people are going to ask me what happened to the 10 million. So what I can do is, if you collect 10 million, I will run away with 8 million, I write 2 million in the book. So when the auditor comes, or anybody comes, it's only what is in the book they're going to be judging. So that's what's happening to our petroleum. People in government thought, okay, if we bring revenue in and later start to take out of it, then somebody's going to blow a whistle in future, or they just can't wait, or they're just too criminal now. So they steal the money right from the beginning. They go and steal the crude. So if you eliminate that,
okay.
And if you look at various government agencies, there are a lot of money is trapped there that are not captured. So that if you're an accountant general of Nigeria and you are a patriot, you either hang yourself or you resign, because you will see that this is like what we call government today is not what God wants us to call government. It is not what our ancestors would call government. It's not what people of good conscience would call government. It's because we have managed to form ourselves into various criminal gangs that just come and loot. So as a result of that, you will have a lot of debt.
Okay.
There are two classes of debt. There also, if you are doing further classification, there is necessary debt and there is unnecessary debt. There is necessary debt where you have a laudable program that you want to appropriate for, and you have to do it, but you have revenue shortfall. However that revenue shortfall occurred, we can address that later. Some revenue shortfall occur from incompetence because they can't capture well. Some occur from actual stealing of them, where they are capturing them. So, like NNPC is a revenue collector for us because they represent us in our oil deals. Inland Revenue is one, Custom is one, and there are other agencies like that collect money for us. I think Airspace Management Agency also collects money for us. So in all of these revenue sources where we collect our money, there are cartels there who just divert these monies. So if these monies are diverted, and the person who's doing appropriation...
Do you have a way of proving that?
Oh, of course. It's very clear. It's there. In fact, it is a shame that I have to say it, because normally journalists, that should be their job. So if you go to anywhere in government, if you want to get your passport today, how much of the money goes to the government? Are you not seeing? You see out of revenue leakage. It's every day you see it. Anywhere you go in government, there's a revenue leakage. So that's obvious, and there are tons and tons of government books that deal with that. There are reports that deal with that. So that's not an issue. And even so, that's just that.
Okay.
Now, even at the Central Bank of Nigeria, money gets missing. What is the cause of the perpetual Abacha loot? Where did it come from? It came from the people going to the central bank to take money that people didn't know. It's because somebody blew the whistle. That's why we got to know Abacha loot.
Okay, so very quickly, how would you resuscitate the Naira?
Okay, now let me deal with the Naira. But let me just conclude on so that we don't have a hanging thought regarding revenue. So what I'm going to do is to capture the revenues. So once you capture it, you will see that you have to borrow less.
Okay.
Second, people who are borrowing to loot, that will stop. Because sometimes somebody is in a department and they are not appropriating money for him. And not because the project is doing requires that funding, he will say, oh, let me borrow money since they are not appropriating money to me, but I can use the authority of the government to borrow money and I spend that money. Then the future will deal with the debt. Now, resuscitating Naira is not, there's no magic there. First, if Naira is being pressed down, you have to ask yourself, where is the law of gravity? Catching the Naira more than it catches the dollar or catches the Ghana CD or any other currency around you. What is the gravitational force pulling it down? And there are 5 of them. So if you remove these gravitational forces, Naira will rise.
Okay.
It's very simple. One is government. Government is not maintaining fiscal discipline. Fiscal discipline means that, first, the ideal budget for the government is called a balanced budget. Remember, if you are a Keynesian, you will discover that the aim of fiscal management and monetary management is full employment. The essence in Keynesian thinking, which I'm used to Keynesian thinking because many of the advisors to the government are Keynesians. So I will use that parameter because that's what they believe in. So the main reason why the government would intervene physically in the economy with fiscal measures and why the central bank would intervene with monetary measures is to have a convergence at which you can have full employment. So you can see that they are failing that because we're not having full employment, we're having serious underemployment, serious unemployment. So that is a failure number one. So government is failing is to spend within budget.
Okay.
That is putting pressure on the Naira. Second, the Central Bank of Nigeria has made itself a till for the government. So it's overfunding the government. Government is not admitting that it's collecting enough to finance its operation. That is government failure. On the other side, the CBN, which is supposed to defend the Naira, because the president of Nigeria, President Buhari, has no duty to defend the Naira. He's not the one managing the Naira. The naira is issued by the Central Bank of Nigeria. So it's the duty of the Central Bank governor to defend the currency. And in order to defend the currency, he has to take many measures that are anti-government by limiting their right to borrow, by pushing finance towards the productive sector, and so many things like that. The Central Bank has become part of the party, part of the government, has failed woefully.
Okay, so we'll allow you to conclude your thoughts on this so we can move to the next one.
So the third problem of naira is speculators.
Okay.
Because of the fact that the government has not allowed, it hasn't done, you have to do one or two things. You cannot be in the middle. You either fix your currency, peg it, and forget about it. Of course, IMF will hate you, World Bank will hate you, everybody will laugh at you, but you peg it like Abacha did. You peg it. That's full stop.
Okay.
No matter what happens, naira is 4 naira to $1, full stop. Whatever happens, you will suffer for it, but it's pegged. Otherwise, you let it float.
Okay.
So when you let it float, then speculators know that it's floating. What we have now is the worst of the two worlds. The fourth thing that is pressing the naira down will be our productivity. We are not productive enough. And because we are not productive, we must metabolize. A lazy person still has to eat, has to sleep in the house, has to bath with water. And you see that many of those things that you have as basic thing in life, if you say, I'm just so poor, I'm just eating ordinary bread, that ordinary bread has imported component in it. And so if you are not producing enough to sell to the world, then you are going to have a trade deficit. If you are not too careful, you have balance of payment deficit, definitely, then your currency will suffer. The last part is you have to have stability.
Okay, let's just
you cannot have a stable currency in an unstable country.
Okay,
so you have to have a stable.
We have quite a lot of things to discuss. So now let's talk about Nigeria's ailing education sector.
Yes.
Now, aside the ASU and the federal government tussle, which have been there for decades, in fact, centuries, the primary and the secondary school are not doing well. In fact, they're barely breathing under the knees of the private schools. And now you have the unity or the government schools, which that are owned by the government. They're even also barely breathing. Now, what are your thoughts? How would you actually solve the ailing Nigeria's education sector, even if it's not going to be completely obliterated? How is it going to be ameliorated?
Okay. Education is a very emotional and philosophical problem. Education you can solve. No country is too poor to solve its education problem. You have to get the teachers to be happy, to be competent, and to want to do the job. If you have good teachers and a good environment, you are okay. What I would do is to remove government's obstruction.
Okay.
The government is supposed to be a sponsor of education, not an obstructor. Let me give you an example. I have a terrible voice. As you can hear from my voice, I'm not a good singer, but I can own an orchestra.
Okay.
I can fund them, buy them drums, trumpets, whatever. But I cannot interfere when they are singing. I'm going to ruin it. But I can guarantee that they have all they need. That's the role of government in education. But right now, the government is running the education by itself. So all the monies for education, not only does the government appropriate it, the government spends it. And it spends it in a political way. So all you need to do is do what the colonial people did and what we communities did. You set up a school, you equip the school to standard,
okay.
You train the teachers to standard, you give them their resources, and you stop interfering. And that's what my government will do.
Okay.
So I know that the University of Nigeria and Nsukka, I know the goal, I know it's a federal university under me, I know how much they need. I know that I want Nsukka to be as good as the University of Cornell, the United States. So I equip the University of Nigeria and Nsukka to that level. I get the lecturers to train to that level. I get them a good governing council. I leave them.
Okay.
That's all. I don't have them chase their vice chancellor. I don't waste my time with them. I leave them.
Okay.
So same thing I do for other universities, ABU, Zaria, Ife, Benin, all sorts of things.
Okay.
Those folks in the Kogi, if you vote a sensible governor for a change, it will do the same thing as the Kogi State University for them. So then it goes down to the local government. If you allow the local government to work, local government will be able to run their primary schools.
Sorry to butt in there.
Yeah.
We would definitely going to talk about the local government because we've been hearing calls.
I'm talking in terms of
government.
education now because they run the primary schools.
Okay.
And if they are comatose, they cannot even pay salaries. How are they going to run schools? So that's where the problem lies. Is government incompetence and government interference. So when an incompetent person is interfering in something they don't know and they don't care about, that's what you have in education.
All right, let's talk about business, SMEs, MSMEs, which we already know that they are like the backbone of every country's economy. Now, what are your plans or what do you intend to do for the SMEs or the MSMEs? Because we know that they also generate a huge sum of income for the economy.
Now, there are three things that attract me to SMEs and all of that. Because one, let me give you a background. I have set up many enterprises myself as an individual, so I know what it takes. Three things that attract me there. One is that they generate employment. Even the akara seller has somebody who is helping her to serve customers and whatever. Even with their own child that is wrapping the things, that child is getting engaged. So they generate employment. Second, it allows people to have talent, to use their talent. That artist who does a little painting and hangs on the roadside is an entrepreneur. So he's able to use the talent and create something. And somebody likes it one day and pays good money for it. That's it. And if a tourist visits your country, it may be one of those things they will go away with. So you get forex from that. The last is that it leads to peace. Because a fully engaged person has very little time for mischief. The problem of SME is I'm not going to do trader money. I'm not going to do any of that rubbish. I am going to create an environment where you have access to electricity. If you have access to electricity, if you have access to trade support services, which is I am a tailor, I don't have to write a sorrowful letter to my uncle to send me 2 million naira. In my local government, there should be a place where I can go and tell the trade officer there, trade support officer, I am a tailor and I'm very good at it, but I have no shop. You should be able to say, okay, you stay here and start your tailoring.
Okay.
And you have access to electricity and support and all of that. Lastly, government should stop picking the pockets of entrepreneurs with rates, taxes, and all those things. They kill SMEs. But you need a stable currency. Because if you are working in Naira and the Naira is not stable, the devaluation of the Naira signals poverty for you, no matter what your level of income is. If you earn 100,000 in January, you trade, you earn 100,000 in February. Now, in January, your 100,000 can fetch you $10, but in March, it can only fetch you $8. You are poor. So, it is the environment that you create that helps the SMEs more than you trying to interfere in individual SMEs. Because what the government has been doing so far in their poverty perpetuation program that they have is that they are picking and choosing. Let's say there are 50,000 entrepreneurs in a community. They will say, go and fill a form somewhere. We have 1,000 entrepreneurs we want to give money to. That's not how to grow enterprise. How to grow enterprise is to create an environment where you say, okay, SMEs, you have access to electricity. You have access to trade facilities. If I'm a trader, I buy yam from Jigawa and I take the yam to sell in Port Harcourt. What can trader money do for me? If there's no road, if the truck load of yam is going to fall into a river because the bridge is weak.
Okay. So
you have to make the environment work, then SMEs will be okay.
Okay, now very quickly, let's talk about local government autonomy. We've heard humongous call for local government autonomy, either through the financial or administrative autonomy should be given to the local government. What are your thoughts on this, very quickly?
It's a constitutional issue, and it is not a presidential issue, but the president can lead in it. But it's not something that can make a government program, because you notice that President Buhari passed the executive order, and the Supreme Court said you have no authority to do it. So if you want to help the local government to have autonomy, you have to improve on Section 7 of the Constitution. You have to particularize the democratic guarantees that are given to local governments. So once you do that, and there are two schools of thought on this subject. There's a school of thought that interprets federalism to exclude the local government. That's what state governors favor. You know, state governors are actually like marauders. What they are doing recently, the governors forum, actually, if you walk to a meeting of government forums and handcuff most of them, you will probably be doing what is right. They have been stealing the money of the local government. So they come up with this theory that the local government is not supposed to be an independent tier of government, and that it should be under the state. So there should be federal government and the state. So if you have that philosophy, then you just eliminate the local government from the Constitution and let the state do whatever they like with them. On the other hand, if you are a three-tier federalist, then you can say, since you've mentioned the local government in the Constitution, then amend Section 7 of the Constitution to give them autonomy. The autonomy of a branch of government cannot be the manifesto of a party. It cannot be the program of an individual executive member or president. It has to be what is written in the Constitution.
Okay.
That's what I recommend.
All right. So now let's talk about the youth. First question I'd like to ask is, where were you and what were you doing during the EndSARS protest? Because a lot of people would say that if you are a youth, you must have been engaged in doing one thing or the other during the EndSARS protest. So what engagement do you have during that protest? That's one on the side. And then the second is, for the youth that are already unemployed, you have the unemployed youth here and there, and then you're talking about politics. We already know that a lot of people, the youth, exactly, they're only engaging when it comes to campaigns and all. Then when we get to the election day, you'd find them disaffected or missing. So how are you galvanizing or help bringing this youth together so as to come together in their large numbers to support you on the election day, especially with the PVC drive?
Okay, let me start with EndSARS. There are three things I'm going to say about that. EndSARS struggle is a watershed in Nigerian youth involvement in politics, in public discourse. But it's not the totality of it. So it's not the only thing you're going to use to measure the right of a youth to participate in public space. You cannot say, if you were part of the EndSARS, yes, you're qualified. If you're not, you're not. That's not correct. That's number one. Number two, what I did during the EndSARS is on record. So you can just go to the tape. I think even during the EndSARS, I was in your studio here. And I was on the street. So whatever I did, you can find out. It's not me to say it. Thirdly, ask the EndSARS people themselves and ask them why so many of them are aligning with me. So it's them who will tell you. It's not me who would come. There are so many people, apart from me, there are so many people who played very good roles, advisory role, wholesome roles in the process that are just quiet. So, but the EndSARS people know them. So it's my perception at that time, and remains the same now, is that the EndSARS movement must be seen as a positive movement, not anti-police, but anti-police brutality, not anti-government, but anti-bad governance. Okay. And that conversation I started having with them right from then, and I'm still having with them now. So that's very clear. Okay. Now, regarding youth participation in politics, I think that the youth should know the stake. I believe that youth are not just for PVC only. I've encouraged a lot of youth to take on public office. Because why do you want to be complaining about something to be done for you if you could actually go in there and do it for yourself and by yourself?
But then, pardon me, you have the cultural belief or mentality that says that when you're a youth, why should you talk when the elders are talking? Or tells the woman rather, that why would you talk when the men are talking? The cultural mentality is still there. Well,
it hasn't stopped me from running for president. It hasn't stopped me from arguing in the Supreme Court in my 20s as a lawyer. It hasn't stopped me from doing anything. And I think that Cultural milieu is always there. We are to encourage one another to push the limits.
Okay.
And if you push the limit, I run for president, I work very hard, I win. I know for sure. I know what stands between me and being sworn in next year as president is hard work.
Okay.
There is no environment, no barrier. If I work hard enough and Nigerians see me as hardworking, I'm serious, and I can do the job, they will vote me in. There's no barrier there. Most of the barrier is in the mind. So I think that, of course, there are economic realities and other problems that may make a youth who is unemployed to think that he can't do anything. But you see, one unemployed youth standing alone is helpless.
Okay.
But 10,000 unemployed youth banding together, they're not helpless.
All right, very quickly, we have less than 3 minutes. Now let's talk about security or insecurity.
Yes.
What are your blueprints? How do you intend to solve Nigeria's insecurity challenge, or the insecurity and the security challenges? Because we have the Dapchi girls still abducted. We have the Chibok girls still there. And then they keep telling people, even the recent Kaduna Abuja train attack, most of them are still at the abductors' net. So what is it for you? What are your blueprints in solving that sector?
You see, these abductions, banditry, and all these things, they're very painful. They're painful in the sense that they are not supposed to be a government program. No person should run for office in Nigeria promising that I'm going to rescue girls. They should have been captured to start with. It shows to you that the government itself has failed. And the way our constitution is written and the way civilized societies are run, security of life and property is the #1 duty of government. And it does not differ from administration to administration. The police being able to police the society, the armed forces being able to protect the territorial integrity of the country, should not be a program that varies from government to government. It should be a pillar that carries the superstructure of state. So I think that what I'm going to do are 3 things. I'm going to revamp the security apparatus of government, to depoliticize them and to demonetize them. Those are the 2 things worrying them. If you are going to be an AIG in the police, you are already 60% politics is involved to even get to that level. So it's not professional anymore. So maybe your professionalism in the police will stop when you are like assistant commissioner. But anything above, you are now exposed to the politics.
Okay.
So you survive on politics. Same thing in the armed forces. Maybe you can find 1 or 2 majors, innocent lieutenant colonel here and there. But immediately above that, they become politicians. Okay. They'll be too politically exposed. So we need to deal with that. Second, the maniacal urge for money has entered into the security forces. That's why they are paralyzed. They are paralyzed by sloth. So you need to clean that up. Once you do that, you create a system that works. The next government coming after me will not have to do it. Because remember that criminality can occur inside government. So it's not the government of the day that is meant to enforce the law. Law enforcement is supposed to be, the rule of law is supposed to be vested in law enforcement agencies, such that if Minister of Police Affairs commits a crime, a policeman next to his house can go and arrest him.
Okay.
You get my point? So you have to take rule of law away from the government of the day and instill it in institutions.
Okay.
So and that's what I'm going to do. You are short of time, but I will give you detail if you have more time in future.
All right. So we have to anchor this ship. But before we land, before we anchor, let's talk about consistency, persistence, going the whole 9 yards.
Yes.
How far are you willing to run this presidential race? Because now looking at your platform, Social Democratic Party, and there've been a lot of fillers who've been getting saying that a lot of people who believe that some aspirants from other political parties who feel marginalized or disgruntled might decide to come into your party. Probably they're disgruntled about the zoning process and all. That they might come to your party, and then some of the aspirants you have in your party are just like a stopgap for them. So what are your thoughts? How much do you intend to go on with this race? Very quickly.
We will win the presidency. That's what we want to do. We'll go through the election. If anybody wants to join our party, I'm not surprised. It's a very attractive party. The calamities that they've created for themselves in the other parties, we don't have them. They're highly disciplined people. So you have a highly experienced, if you look at our national chairman, Shehu Gabam, he left PDP as far back as 2018. And it spent 3 years before he left, trying to reform the party and telling them that this is where they're going to find themselves. So, and coming to SDP, he hasn't left since that time. He's been taking time to see that the party will not have the same mistakes as the other one. And if you look at Prince Adewole, who was there as chairman, if you look at Shivolu Falai, right from the beginning, the party has been put on the track of internal democracy, of some discipline. So if people are now coming to seek refuge, 18 political parties, if they are coming to us, it shows to you that they have seen that these people are highly professional. The same judgment I took, this is the first political party that I've joined. I joined it as a young man during Abiola time, and you saw the quality of the party at that time. It was a highly disciplined party, highly competitive, and you saw that Abiola had to compete with Kingibe, compete with so many other people, Yaradua in those days, many people. So it's a very strong party. And if people are coming to join us, we are welcome. We welcome them.
So if they decide to buy up your slogan, it doesn't affect your ideology in any way?
You know, if people come to join us, they will join us where we are. They will queue behind us and they support us in what we are doing. The aim, you have to understand something, that no political party on its own can win general election. You need the general public to buy into your idea. And if some active politicians decide to say that they missed their way all this while, and they've learned their lesson, and they see a better platform in SDP, and they're coming to join us, why should we say don't join us? We are not in this for ourselves. All I know is that when they come to join us, if there is any of them that has legitimate ambition, they have to compete with us who are there, and we have confidence that we will be able to do very well against them, and maybe they will probably not even contest at all and see that we have better platform than them. But in a political party, it's not something that you can particularize to yourself. You cannot say it's me alone in the party and me or my family. No, it's a party that should be open to all Nigerians, and if you use merit to determine, and if you want to be president of Nigeria, you have to get used to beating a lot of people in elections. All
right, what a fine way to anchor this program. Thank you so much for your time with us, Prince Adewole Adebayo. It's been a wonderful time having these discussions with you.
It's a pleasure, Annabelle. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Great. All right, viewers, that's all we can take for today. I'm sure you must have listened, and you have been rightly educated, entertained, and informed. I will definitely see you again next time. Keep watching The Conversation, because you never know who my next guest will be. I will see you next time. From the nation's capital, Abuja, I am Annabelle Oji. God bless Nigeria.